Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of On the Other Line Canada. If you're there, say hello. Let's see who this week's competitor is for first. It's Broden. Broden, I think you've been the first to comment before. Scott Connolly, you're on here. Scott, I see you in the room, and when we're ready to bring you on, I'll just get you to give me the thumbs up for obvious reasons. And there's Paisley in the background. For anyone that hasn't been following the Charity Fish On, we are into week 3. I haven't seen any entries yet. I know they're coming. I'm going to bring my co-host in. Mitch, you good? Mitch is giving me the thumbs up. Mitch, how are you?
Good. Yourself?
Well, you already know how excited I am. Do you know why?
I'm super excited.
I'm beyond excited.
Yeah. If you make it through this, I'd be surprised.
I actually thought about just canceling the show so we could have Gord to ourselves for the entire hour. But then you reminded me I have to share, so...
Yeah, you need to spread the knowledge.
I know, but it's the selfish side of me, right? That's just how I am.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Now, as a judge, just confirm this for me, for anyone that's asking. We're into week 3, team week for the Charity Fish On for charity. No entries yet, right?
No, nothing yet.
Perfect. That's all anybody needs to know because we're going to get right to it. The man, the myth, the legend. I think I call everybody that. But let's bring him in, Mr. Gord Pyzer. Gord, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Todd. Great to be here.
We were having a little... Go ahead, Gord.
I just said hi, Mitch.
Oh.
Hey, Gord.
I will admit right off the bat, I'm a bit guilty of calling Mitch my third wheel, where I sometimes forget he's there. And so he's the man to calm me and keep me on track. So,
yeah, sometimes he's a little scatterbrained, but we reel him back in.
That makes 2 of us, so we're in good company.
It's not easy, and I'm drinking coffee to top it all off. So we will try to stay on track. So, Gord, we were talking before the show. You were actually mentioning you were going to try to make it out, but you knew the show was coming. So hopefully we didn't cut into your fishing too much. But I'm interested to know, we were talking about a place, and you said it was one of your most memorable grayling trips or fly fishing for grayling. Is that right?
You know, it was Wolf Lake Lodge up in the Yukon. And I honest truth, I've been fortunate to fish some of the best grayling waters in Canada, which means the best grayling waters in the world. Casbah, Great Bear, all around Great Slave. Without question, the Wolf River Lodge where we fish there, it is the most incredible grayling fishing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, if I was to say I could guarantee 100 fish day, that would be an understatement. And here's the cool thing. The year I was there happened to be the same week that John Horsey, and John was the captain of the British gold medal winning fly fishing team. So John Horsey, myself, Patrick Walsh, it was just the most incredible time. And I'll always remember we were Euro nymph fishing. And I'm sure a lot of the real popular thing to do these days, Euro nymphing on rivers. And so here I am with John Horsey. And I said to John, we were fishing down the river out of Wolf Lake Lodge there. And I said to John, John, normally, when would you leave a spot to move to the next spot? And he said, here, I'll leave when I catch 50. And honest truth, I bet he caught 50 within 30 minutes, 40 minutes. It was the most incredible grayling fishing I have ever. And I'm not talking little grayling. I'm talking 18, 20, 22, 24-inch fish. It was absolutely incredible. Anybody gets the chance to go to Wolf Lake Lodge in the Yukon, go.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's been on my list for some time. And when it came up this afternoon, I actually had to read back to the article of the trip you guys had there. And I mean, considering the pressure we're finding, I don't know what you're finding it like, but in Alberta, we're told, last year alone, 40,000 new licenses. We're seeing constant pressure on water, open water, ice fishing, you name it. The pressure is pretty intense right now. So to hear that there's places like that still exist is mind-boggling to me.
it's well managed. I mean, the only way in is you have to fly in. You go through the lodge, and they're good, responsible people. They manage it well. 100% essentially catch and release. It's just well looked after, and it shows. The end product shows for itself.
Yeah. The only place that compares to it, and people might be tired of hearing me say this, is Manitoba.
I fished several spots in Manitoba. I've actually caught maybe a couple of bigger ones in northern Manitoba, but I have never caught so many quality fish as that time at Wolf Lake.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you someone that does have some experience. And Scott, if you want to give me the thumbs up, we'll bring you in. We got a family that fishes a lot in southern Manitoba. I mean, really anywhere in Manitoba. And she's probably the youngest angler we've had on the show. Paisley and Scott Connolly. Now, Paisley and Scott are competing in our charity fish on we're doing right now. And Paisley's charity is Autism Canada. And I think between Scott and Paisley, you guys have a question for Gord, right?
Yes, we do. Nice to see you, Gord. The question that we have for you is we spend a lot of time on our boat with our son Dexter, who's obviously special needs. And I was wondering if you have spent much time fishing with children with disabilities. And if so, what's your most memorable moment?
Honest truth, Scott, I wish I could say I spend a lot of time. I haven't had that many opportunities. I spend a lot of time with young kids, but I haven't spent for just because I haven't had the chance, I guess, with special needs. My youngest daughter, in fact, is an autistic school specialist here in Kenora with the school board. And I've done some work with some of the schools and some of the grades, but you get over to Kenora, you and Paisley get over to Kenora sometime and we'll get out.
Sounds like a plan.
I think so.
Like that? Yeah, go fish with Gord.
Paisley, yeah. I just saw your eyes light up. Now, would you take mom or dad with you if you're to go to Kenora?
Quite think about
it. Paisley will get back to us on that. Paisley, have you caught any fish for the fish on this week?
How many did we catch today?
Two.
Yeah. They were under 30 inches, so we can't say they're what? We don't love what?
We don't love the bacon.
No, not yet.
You don't love the bacon. Well, Gord, the competition is when they catch a fish for us to verify, they have to say they love bacon. So she's saying the bacon's not big enough? Is that what you're telling me, Paisley?
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, how far are you guys from Kenora?
We're probably like 5 hours, maybe.
Oh, that's not bad.
4 or 5 hours, yeah. And we just come back from a 7-hour trip back from Flin Flon, Baker's Narrows. So, 5 hours doesn't phase us, that's for sure. This girl was up at, we were out for the evening walleye bite, and we were out till 11 o'clock at night, and then she's back up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get the morning bite. Like, just a trooper. Unreal.
Oh.
I got more walleye than that.
What was it like raising your kids on fishing, Gord? Are they still advocates for the sport?
Oh, 100%. I have 2 daughters. And believe it or not, my grandson, Liam, anybody that follows on Outdoor Canada in Fisherman or blogs knows that Liam's, without question, my best fishing partner. Yep. And he's at college this year. So he's down in Southern Ontario going to college. And it has been so different without having him around, And then this is the honest truth. You realize the reason we fish, as much as I like fishing by myself, it's a chance to experiment and do things that I wouldn't normally do with other people. But really, when you fish with other folks, and especially kids, you realize that's what it's all about. It really is about taking kids and having fun fishing.
Yeah.
You're 100% right there, Gordon. I think for the majority of our guests that we've had on, that we've asked about where they've gotten their passion for fishing, it all goes back to that experience when they were younger.
Yeah.
So, that says a lot about what we're doing I mean, look at Paisley here. She already outfishes dad, right? That's something she's going to probably remember forever, right, Paisley?
Yeah.
And I read your article in the newspaper. That was pretty cool. Are you excited?
Yeah.
Are you determined to beat all of the other competitors?
Yeah.
Have you decided who you're taking to Kenora?
No.
I had to try it. Well, Paisley and Scott, thanks for coming on the show and asking Gord a question. Good luck this week in the competition. And Paisley, is it bedtime? What'd you say?
She's decided who she's going to take. Who are you going to
Oh, who?
You.
Yeah.
So I can try and learn from you.
take? Okay.
And I'm gonna catch more pike than you.
Well, the hard part is, Paisley, now Mom's going to make you go to bed when you get off the show.
Yeah. We can stay up for the end. Dad's pulling rank on this one.
Oh, okay. Dad'll let it slide.
Yeah.
All right, Paisley and Scott, thanks again for joining the show. It was great having you guys on, and good luck this week.
Thanks
Yeah.
for having us, guys.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Take care. Well, that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, they're killing it too.
Yeah,
Now-
go ahead, Gord.
They mentioned almost 30 inches. I'm assuming walleye.
So this week the competitors were actually in team week. So the final 4 competitors, we drew names for teams. So Paisley's competing with Adam, and they're going for pike and tiger trout for combined inches. And then what happens is the team with the most inches between those 2 species go into the finale next week and compete against each other. So we started with 10 competitors a few weeks ago, and it's been interesting. But the winner gets $1,000 for a charity of their choice, and there's been a ton of people sponsoring the show and stuff. Paisley's actually also fundraising for Autism Canada. Her brother is autistic, and they've just done an amazing job helping support that charity and putting in a lot of time and effort in competing. And you talk about a family that fishes, man, that family is always fishing. It's super cool to watch.
Yeah, that's really nice. Very cool.
I think it's amazing that, for so many of us, what we all have in common is the family aspect. Like, Gord, do you remember when it all started for you, when we're talking about passion?
I truly do. I truly do. And I grew up in downtown Toronto. And believe it or not, when I was about 4 years old, I can remember sitting on the curb in downtown Toronto in a side street where we lived, and with a stick in my hand, fishing in the gutter with the water going down the street. And, then later, a few years later, when I was in elementary school, my parents got a cottage up in the Haliburton Highlands. And I would go up the day school got out, and I would not come back until the day before school started. And I went 6 years and did not miss a day fishing.
Wow. Gutter fishing, I mean, I've seen it done, but I've never tried it myself. Do you remember if you caught anything?
I can remember I didn't.
Okay.
But here's the funny thing, Todd. This is really cool. There was never a moment I didn't think that I was not going to. I honestly thought I was going to catch a fish. And I can remember one time, again, we were just kids, and we went to Florida in the wintertime, our Christmas vacation. And I can remember getting twine on the beach, old twine, and making a loop, and then firing it out, and honestly thinking a fish was going to swim through the loop and I would catch it. And, boy, I wished I had that confidence today.
Yeah, to lasso them.
But the funny thing is if you actually did catch something, could you imagine?
Oh, yeah. And, every fish you caught back then as a kid was giant.
Yeah.
I was really, really lucky when I was about 7 years old. I actually hooked into one of the biggest muskies I've ever had on. And I was at my uncle's cottage, and this was back in the day of the old black nylon braided line, and I had a solid steel rod, and we were allowed to row out in front of the cottage and drop anchor. Anyway, I'd made a cast out, and I hooked the muskie, and it came up out of the water and jumped. And I can always remember my dad running down to the dock. And as he's running down onto the dock, he's yelling, "Let out line, let out line." And I'm thinking, are you crazy? Let out line? I'm not letting out. And this again is the honest truth. The fish dove, went under the boat, and then cleared right over the front. And I was maybe 7 years old, 6 years old. And I have been hooked on muskies ever since.
That's amazing. And my understanding, because I've never caught one, is the fight that they give you is unreal.
Yeah. And that fish broke my line first, broke the rod first. And now I was hanging on only by the handle and the reel. And then it snapped my line. And I can remember I was a little kid, and I had tears in my eyes, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble. I broke the rod and I broke the line. And of course, my parents were laughing, and it was so funny. But
how long after were your feelings hurt? Because I know how I am when I lose a big fish.
Well, here I am 60 some odd years later, and that fish is still as fresh in my memory as the day I lost it.
Isn't that amazing? You just never forget. I always like to say that my phone has to remind me of birthdays and people's phone numbers and all the other stuff in my life. But I can show you any hook in my box, and I can tell you what I caught, when I caught it, and where I caught it. So
if you look out this window here, the Lake of the Woods is right there. And it's 1 million acres, 14,000 islands, 65,000 miles of shoreline. And we'll go down 30, 35 miles down lake. And as we're going down, I'll be going, there's an 18-foot shoal over there, 22, watch the 2-footer coming up in front. And my wife says, how do you remember? You forget my birthday, but you remember there's a 4-foot shoal over there.
It's just, I find it so funny how that works. And maybe it is because that connection with memories. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
I know Marcy's watching right now, so I'm sorry, babe, but I do remember all the hooks you caught fish on, if that helps. So, yeah, I mean, it's just amazing to hear the connection you have with that. I don't think I can remember that far back, so your memory is quite a bit sharper than mine. Because
you can remember your first fish, no?
You know what? I can remember the first time I caught a hook in the eyelid. I remember that much. Actually, in both eyelids in one instance, thanks to my mother, accidentally. I have pictures of when I caught fish at my youngest, but I can't say is that I remember it. Mitch?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I was 2.5 casting a spin rod out west and got my first limit of brook trout with my parents. So, yeah, I remember.
Very cool.
I don't know how I forget. Apparently, it's just me.
I remember going to the Yukon as a small kid, spending the summer up there with my grandparents, and I know every little back bay that Grandpa would take me into down the Yukon River. And I remember those old wooden hooks we would just toss out there topwater and just rip them back and smash northerns.
That's so cool.
Amazing.
I'm a BC boy. All we had was trout and walking through streams with suckers.
Wow.
We didn't get the Yukon experience like you did, Mitch. Or the muskie experience like Gord. I kind of feel shafted now.
Yeah. Well, we're either in the Yukon or Minnesota, so.
I'm going to close this window. My neighbor's cutting the grass. Oh,
no problem, Gord. We'll bring the next guy in while you're... Don't you just hate neighbors?
Right under my window here, cutting the grass on this lawn.
What does it take for me to be the neighbor?
Hey, Gord.
How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Just got back from fishing. My feet are still wet, so I'm doing good.
Awesome. What were you fishing for?
I was just fishing for suckers. I was fishing for some silver red horses, so I had a blast. Got a bunch of them.
Cool. Now, a hook and line, or
Yeah. Just fishing with just a jig and a worm. Big 26-inch silvers. They're a blast. Ultralight rod, just a lot of fun.
wow, that's very cool.
Adam's also into micro fishing. Adam, what was it you caught a few weeks ago when we went for sturgeon? Because I'm still in shock over that.
I caught a river shiner. I ordered these tiny little hooks from Japan, and I kind of life list. So I caught a river shiner the other day. Caught a long nose dace the other day, so that was a new one for me. It's been really cool.
Well, yeah.
It's good for bait, right? I go out and catch all my own little chubs and my own little minnows, so it's fun.
Wow.
I can't even begin to say how much respect I have for Adam and how he fishes. So I'll just say that.
It's an addiction. I grew up in Southern Ontario there, Gord, and my grandpa, he put me on fishing at a young age, and it's an amazing place to fish. So I never got to fish Lake of the Woods where you are, but Lake St. Clair is where I grew up. I grew up in Sarnia, so.
Some of the best muskies I ever caught were in St. Clair, on the Detroit River, right at the mouth there, right in Windsor, and fishing is just superb. But I gotta say, Adam, is one of the favorite things I love to do, because when Scott was on with his daughter there, I love fishing on the end of a dock with a bunch of kids and getting pumpkin seeds and bluegills. That is much fun.
Last year, me and Todd actually got to fish with Paisley, and we were fishing bluegills and little bullheads off the end of docks. And it was a riot. Probably one of my best memories from the last year is Todd catching a 10.5-inch bluegill and just being like, so stoked, Paisley, so stoked. All of us.
That's why the certificate's up right and center right there, man. That was epic.
Very
the
cool.
Master angler. Oh, but I know what you mean. Fishing with kids is an absolute riot. I fish sturgeon a lot, and a lot of times I get to take people for their first one or kids for their first one, and that is absolutely a riot, because they get that big lake sturgeon on and they're just hanging on for dear life as that fish is taking runs.
Wow! Now, what lakes would you fish for sturgeon?
Well, I'm fishing them actually in the river, so I'm fishing them in the South Saskatchewan River.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, the Rainy River used to be a really, and Lake of the Woods used to be an amazing sturgeon fishery, but it's 100% closed season for them, so we're not allowed to target them.
Right. I seen that there was a 70, I want to say 73 that was caught in Lake of the Woods by a guy who was walleye fishing within the past year or so.
That's right, about a year ago.
Yeah, that was a giant.
Yeah.
My biggest is 62, so the 70s is just a dream for me right now.
My biggest is 56, and I caught it 2 weeks ago. First time ever. Thanks, Adam.
Oh.
It was a riot, Todd.
What question did you have for Gord?
I wanted to ask you, Gord, when you're targeting summer walleyes, what water temperature are you looking for, or are you kind of looking for something other than water temperature?
It's a great question. Let me grab this, because when folks talk, this happens to be, it's the Fishhawk TD. There it is there. And they cost about $100 and some odd bucks. You put it on your reel and then you put it down. I hardly ever go fishing that I don't put it in the water and let it go straight down to the bottom. Then, when I turn it on, and I did this just the other day, hopefully it's still got, so at the surface, it was 81 degrees. So, but at the surface, the water was 67.4. I went down 5 feet, it was 65 degrees. I'm down 10 feet, it's 58. Whoops, there, 58. And what it gives me is every 5 foot going down. And
really?
Yes, and Adam, it's a great question, because when folks talk about water temperature, especially for walleye, actually for anything, they're always reading surface temperature. And what I always say to them is surface temperature is meaningless. You've got to know what the temperature is in the water column. So if I'm going for lake trout and they're really temperature conscious, First thing I do every time I go for lake trout, drop it over the side of the boat. When I can find where, so I'll drop it down, then I'll pull it up about 2-3 seconds later. It'll tell me that 56, 58 degrees in that range is down around 52 feet. It's before I've even got the boat set up in terms if I'm down rigging or wire lining or lead coring. I know I've already started to zero in on the best location. Now with walleye, you're always looking in around 65. Well, I'm still in metric. Sorry about that. So it's about 20. No, it's about 18 degrees for walleye. And you can set this thing for Fahrenheit or Celsius. But here's the key with walleye. I know your question was related to big walleye. Big walleyes are always female. They're always female. Hard to find a male that gets up 26, 28 inches. Very exceptional. So the 30s, 32, 34-inch walleye are nearly always females. What a female walleye will do is actually go deeper into colder water. Less than ideal, actually. And you go, well, why would a walleye go get a female walleye? She can conserve energy and devote 100% of what she's eating. Virtually 100% of what she's eating goes to egg development. The other key, when you get down into deeper water, you feed on ciscos. And I know you guys have got them in the deeper lakes. So if you're targeting larger walleyes, you always want to go to the absolute lower level of their range. And then they're feeding on ciscos. And there's my number one walleye bait.
A paddle tail.
A 5 or 6 inch paddle. That's 3/4 of an ounce jig head.
Okay.
And people go, 3/4 of an inch? Are you kidding? We're throwing this in 15 feet of water. We'll throw it in 20, 25. But the big headed jigs, and again, those female walleyes, that's what they're eating. They're keying in on ciscos. And now I've put my water thermometer down. I know where the 64-degree temperature range is, 63 Fahrenheit. I might be down 26, 28. And I know what the best technique is, at least it is up here for us. This is a program Doug Stange at In Fisherman and I got on 25 years ago. It's been incredible. Two fellas, I did a seminar in Lloydminster, Saskatchewan several years ago. They asked if I'd donate a trip to the hospital foundation. And anyway, they auctioned it off. And the two fellas that bought the trip came over and we fished this on Lake of the Woods. And I forget what we caught over one day, over 10 pounds. It was something like 12 or 15 walleyes. And our biggest was 15 pounds right on. I guarantee it was amongst the 5, 6 biggest. It was amongst the top 10 biggest bait or walleyes caught that entire year anywhere in North America. And every single fish came on that bait right there.
Really?
Wow.
One other is the full body. That happened to be a hollow belly. And this is one of the, this happens to be a big hammer. And I'll tell you a little secret if you guys are fishing. And this is a new bait as well. You talked about those Japanese super high quality little micro jigs. This is the Nishin. Amazing jig. But, and I'll just do it real quick here. And I know people don't, but every day when you go out, you've got to determine whether they want your bait rigged normal or whether they want it rigged sideways. And many, many days, rigging it sideways, it slows the fall down. It really slows the descent down and it drives you get a totally different action out of it. And we have seen days when almost every walleye wants it either sideways, and we've seen other days when they want it rigged in the normal fashion. So And the other cool thing, of course, is once this gets all chewed up, and they've chewed the heck out of it here, you just rig it sideways, and you can double duty your bait and get two uses out of it. And put a crazy glue on both of them, and they'll never pull it off.
It holds on the head really well. Absolutely.
100%.
That's
Perfect.
amazing.
That's a great answer, Gord. I really appreciate all that.
It was a super question because everybody relies on surface water temperature, and it means nothing.
Absolutely, right?
We've had 2-3 days of flat, calm, and 30, 32 degrees here on Lake. It's 74 degrees today on the surface on Lake of the Woods. But if you go down 5 feet, it's 62, and that's all that matters to the fish. So you got the temperature where the fish are, not rely on what your sonar is telling you up on the surface.
And sorry, Gord, that was the Fishhawk, right?
It was a Fishhawk TD, yes.
Scott Stewart's saying he uses them as well.
Yeah, you can get the really, really expensive ones that go onto your downrigger, and they're Bluetooth, and so they shoot the recording right up to on.
So then you know the exact temperature your bait's in right then and there.
It gives you the temperature at the cannonball.
That's incredible.
Have you ever done like a Texas rig when you're fishing like a weed line?
Texas rig?
Yeah.
It's a great question, Mitch, because with this one, it's amazing how it sheds weeds. And the real key on this is you have to, I've crazy glued the head on, but if you can see, and I just cut that right off I went out to the boat and actually cut it off, but you can see it, you need to use a long shank hook. So it needs to be a long shank jig hook. And this happens to be an owner's saltwater bullet head. It's amazingly, we'll throw it right into the edge of the weeds. We intentionally fish it to get caught and then snap it. And it sheds weeds really, really well. And then what we really like, though, is fishing these when we rig them sideways and throw it up against the edge of the weeds, and they just flutter down like this, and the walleyes come out and crush it.
Nice.
Am I the only one that's in shock over the crazy glue idea and how I didn't think of that before?
Oh,
you don't do that?
Amazing.
Oh, swim baits, you got to do that.
Yeah,
I'm a rookie, man. Go easy on me here.
In fact, how crazy is this? You know the hook keeper on this bait? If you look closely, I cut it off. I don't like the crappy hook or bait keepers on virtually every jig. If you put a drop of crazy glue up in the nose, you don't ruin the nose of your soft plastic, and you just crazy glue it. And look at it. You can't pull it off.
It's going nowhere. They're going to bite the tail off before they take the bait.
100%, Adam.
I get amazed every show. I learn something new, and I'm constantly spending money every week. So thanks, Gord. You just cost me another $300 this week.
Now, here's another little tip, though, on crazy glue. Everybody thinks if a tiny drop or two is good, a whole bunch of it's got to be better, and it isn't. With crazy glue, actually, when you put it around the edge of the lead head, a little bit is far better than a lot. So go sparingly, and it'll just lock it in place forever.
That's great to know. Awesome. Thanks, Gord.
Hey, you got to learn something every day, Todd. That's perfect.
Right? I'm always learning, man. I'm a sponge.
That's what fishing's all about, man.
Well, Adam, thanks for joining the show. I appreciate your question and taking time to talk to Gord, because I tell you what, you got these wheels turning as always, my friend.
Thanks for having me on. It's a huge honor to be able to talk to you, Gord.
Be good, Adam. Have fun.
Take care.
You told Adam to be good, which is where we may have went wrong, because I've known this guy for a long time. He's probably heading back out to the river. I'm not kidding. This kid does not sleep. He's insane. Well, Gord, we'll bring in the next guy with the next question. Ryan, how are you?
I'm good, Todd. How are you?
Are you nervous?
Not so much.
No.
Not at all. It's only Gord Pyzer, man. It's the doc.
Fantastic night to be on the line, I tell you what.
Well, you had a
Yeah, so my question is, Gord, what's your opinion on slot sizing regulations on large bodies of water?
I worked for Natural Resources here in Ontario for 31 years. And I finished up here as the district manager on Lake of the Woods in Kenora. And the last major thing I did for 2.5 years at the end, prior to taking nearly retirement, is we were the first, essentially in Canada, one of the first in North America to modernize and streamline the fishing regs. And we went to slot limits. And slot limits work. I'll tell you that right now. Ryan, they're amazingly effective. We were the first in the world, I believe, when we went to 40 inches on muskies. Then we went to 48, and we went to 54. We went to 1 over walleyes at 18 inches, and 1 over 4 under, or 3 under 1 over. It works magnificently well. It just works. I'll tell you that right now. I've said many times when we talk, folks, big fish matter. Dr. Tufts, Bruce Tufts, a good friend at Queen's University, and Bruce heads up the Tufts Laboratory at Queen's. And for all of his students there, he had T-shirts made up, Big Fish Matter, and they truly do. And that's what slots allow you to do. A slot allows you to release the larger fish. They are the geese that lay the golden eggs. And there's nothing wrong with keeping a few fish and having shore lunch, but you do it on the expendable members of the population. And what slot limits generally allow you to do is to have your cake and eat it too. So a 30-inch walleye lays between 1/4 and 1/2 million eggs. And 98% of them are hatch. And they, from a genetics perspective, they're far superior. You take an 18 to 20-inch walleye, it's lucky if half of them or 1/4 of them actually hatch. And so bigger fish, unlike what most people think, fish are one of the few animals that spawn their entire life. And a big fish lays viable eggs in it, and it also passes on the genetic qualities. We sometimes assume that a big fish is always an old fish, and that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes they're the Wayne Gretzky's, the Michael Jordans of the world. They are fast growers, they're big, they're strong, and that's the genetic quality you want passed on. And what slots allow us to do is have our cake and eat it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think Alberta has to pick that up a little better.
100%. I live on the edge of Slave Lake, and it was a huge commercial fishing lake, and they banned commercial fishing. And, you know, we're not seeing a whole lot of our big walleye like we used to. And I think they should introduce a slot size, but, you know, tough for me to say.
Yeah. I don't know the science there. I'm sure if you got the data and spoke with folks, but as a general rule, for sure.
This year they're getting rid of our big size tags. This will be the last year our C class, so that's our bigger size walleyes, and they will not be going with them forward. So at least people won't be taking those bigger walleyes home now. So that'll be good starting next year.
Yeah. Todd, I think, mentioned it at the very beginning. We're getting extremely well as anglers now, with knowledge, with equipment, and there are no more fish. What's out there and what's always been out there, that's all we get to play with. But we're getting better and better. And so when you start to work with MNR, the DNRs, and you work on slots and those sorts of things, protect the big breeders. It's not rocket science. I mean, good farmers do it every day. They don't kill off their prize cows. They don't kill off their prize bulls. They get rid of the expendable yearlings and whatnot. And it's not a heck of a lot different with fish.
Now, Gord, I'm just wondering, obviously this isn't a political show, but if it was you, what would be the best way for us to be able to educate, the natural resources departments in each individual province to get back on track? Because again, earlier I mentioned Manitoba and how they do it, right? You've talked about how Ontario does it. What should we be doing as anglers to try to educate our governing bodies to start implementing some of these to help protect the future of fishing as a whole?
Well, what I would say, and I say this in all sincerity, and I'm sure you guys are doing it, is you need to work with the local DNR, MNR folks. The reality is every lake, whether it's Cold Lake, Sylvan, or wherever you are, every lake is a world to the fish that are within it. And you need to understand, I think one of the unfortunate realities, we manage fish on broad ecosystem basis. And the reality is it would be ideal in a perfect world, we would manage every lake on a lake by lake by lake basis. And you would do it based on forage, productivity, what you want to see come out. You want to manage it for big fish, small fish, lots of fish. And as a general rule, I think the MNR folks would welcome sitting down and having industry, government committees of anglers and the province and saying, let's share the data. We'll share our side. What is it we want coming out the other end? And I'll be honest with you, it is very easy to manage fish. It's one hell of a problem managing anglers.
Yeah.
It's so funny you mentioned that, because I'm picturing in my mind when you said easy, I'm thinking, yeah, right. You should see the Alberta anglers out here, man. We can't even get along online, let alone in a room. So, I mean, maybe that's what it's going to take. I've been taking part a lot in the online presentations and stuff with biologists, seeing what they're presenting. But one thing I have noticed is that they are closed forums. They will accept certain questions in them. And maybe that's what it's going to take, is someone to step up and say, this is what we need to do to start working towards that. So maybe it's on us to start reaching out and helping to build that relationship.
I think so too, Todd. And I don't need to tell you guys, but in Alberta particularly, you don't have a lot of lakes. I'm in Kenora here. I'm on a lake of 1 million acres. Between Kenora and Thunder Bay, we have 100,000 lakes. And yet Lake of the Woods is the most severely fished lake, and it's the biggest problem lake right now in Ontario. And it's because we're within a 10-hour drive of 40 million people. And we can't look at the lake like it's an alternative to Safeway grocery store.
Right.
It's a huge lake. It's world renowned, and you just get a lot of pressure just that way too.
It does, Mitch. It's having trouble right now living up. So I think where we're headed on Lake of the Woods to 2 walleye limits and none over 18 inches. And I think it would be the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah. I like your thought on, obviously sending the big ones back and keeping the ones that are the majority of the population as shore lunch. I love that idea. Like that is the way it should be, right? So Alberta has a lot of work to do. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if you sat down with your MNR, DNR folks, they would say, wow, let's take advantage of this opportunity and let's talk about what we want to achieve. Do we want to achieve trophy fisheries, numbers fisheries? And it's relatively easy to do. And I think they would work, they would accept that and say, let's do something unique here. And you might be welcomed with open arms.
They're starting to do it with our trout lakes a little more. There's a lot more trophy lakes starting up now with the rainbows and the taggers. So that's moving in a better direction. But our pike and walleye management is not well, especially in central Alberta. They opened it wide open on walleyes in a few lakes, and yeah, they just pretty much destroyed it last year.
You see, we have lakes in Kenora District here. We consider them small lakes, 800 to 1,000 acres. And we would just count the number of cottages on shore, just the cottages on the shoreline. If they kept one limit a year, it would be over harvested.
That's unfortunate.
But and this is the other unfortunate, we manage most of our fisheries as pulse fisheries. So we knock them down until it's not worth fishing and we go elsewhere. And then slowly they build back up. And then someone catches a bunch of it. We all rush over, we pulse it back down. And then that's not the way to manage.
Not at all. I agree with you 100%.
Exactly the same that happened in the 90s here in Alberta too. They destroyed the fishery, restocked all the walleye. Now they don't want the walleye, open up tags and open season on some. Now they're going back, they're gone.
Yeah.
It's just a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Ryan, thanks for joining the show. We appreciate your question.
That was a good question, Ryan.
Thanks, Gord. And thanks, Todd. Have a good night, mate.
Hang out in the background, Ryan. We'll see you at the end of the show. Well, Gord, Bryce, are you good? Yeah, he's just nodding his head. We'll bring in a guy that's got a question for you, Gord, that, you probably haven't heard of him, but this dude just recently won the first edition of Alberta Walleye Wars. Zero trouble finding big walleye this year. Bryce, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Very cool.
Isn't it, though?
Nice.
What was your biggest walleye, Bryce?
It was 30 and a half.
Oh, nice. Over 10.
Yeah.
Usually we find 30-inch, 10, 31, 11, 32, 12, 33, 13. It's amazing once they hit 30, how whatever the last number is. So the 0 on 30's 10, 31's 11, 32's 12. It's quite amazing. So you have one pushing 11 anyway.
Yeah, we find that in Alberta as well. Like when I had my one that was just shy of 33, it was 13 pounds.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Would you catch that on?
Crazy.
We usually use a lot of crankbaits, to be honest with you. We throw a lot of rapalas and stuff like that. And we try not to use too much bait in the summertime for our walleye here.
In all honesty, I couldn't tell you and I swear this is the truth. I could not tell you the last time I bought live bait. One of the biggest mistakes, honest truth, one of the biggest mistakes walleye anglers make is relying on live bait. I won't say, I don't mean it the way I'll say it. I'm glad they do. It's more big fish for the rest of us. But I used to worry if they banned live bait and made it artificials only, all of a sudden everybody would see how big some of the fish are in the lakes that they fish.
Right.
It's actually funny here because everyone's in a panic. We can't have live bait, but I'll tell you what, the bait that is usually filling freezers in Canadian Tires and fishing stores everywhere, not this year. It's massive shortages, so people are having to find creative ways.
Yeah.
These are the ways.
Yeah.
Jerk baits, for the first 15, 20 years of walleye fishing, I would say 90% of the fish we caught were on the original Rapala. I had a friend from Finland who had just come over from Finland and brought Rapalas with him in the late 60s, mid to late 60s. And the walleyes in Canada had never seen a Rapala before. And it was unbelievable. And even to this day, I will say the Countdown Rapala is maybe the least used big walleye bait is the Countdown Rapala.
Yeah. That's actually what I won the tournament with, was using that original Rapala in the silver, black, and red.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now all of Alberta is sold out of Rapalas, Crazy Glue, and Paddle Tails. And I'm
right.
This is why I didn't want to share you for an hour, Gord. This is what happens. I need more bins. And Bryce, did you not clean up on like 5 or 6 of the top 10 spots between you and your son? Like your son almost beat you, let's be honest, right?
Oh, he was super close. Yeah, between the two of us, we had 7 of the top 10 spots in the tournament.
That's phenomenal.
That's when you know it's not a mistake. That's when you know what you're doing is the right thing.
Well, we battled all types of weather to do it, so we put in the work for this tournament, that's for sure.
Good for you.
And the best part is, Gord, Bryce is a guide that, for obvious reasons, with the new normal, it's been a tough year and a half. I'll tell you what, regulations in Alberta are coming off. This guy's going to be guiding like crazy on Lake Newell. So, it's pretty awesome to see.
That's awesome.
I'm looking forward to it. So I had a question for you about, you've had a lot of history, whether between the biology aspect and now as the actual fishing aspect. Have you seen a negative impact on the fishing due to social media? And if so, how can we rectify that? I mean, social media is not going anywhere, but how can we rectify the damage done and prevent it from moving forward?
I often say, Bryce, many times, there's no question I have not been asked before, and that's the first time I have been asked that question, and it's absolutely brilliant, because as we know, there's the positive side of social media, but there are huge negatives. And
absolutely,
you're a guide. I've been out on Lake. I don't put a marker buoy out anymore. A marker buoy becomes an invitation to come over and fish beside you.
Absolutely.
And on our best musky trolling spots in the late fall, I don't take my big kingfisher out. We launch a little 16 footer with 20 horse tiller on the back, and people don't recognize us. And I've had guys phone and say, I saw where you were fishing on Saturday or Friday. And go, so what's the point? And then they post it on social media.
Oh, geez.
And they'll go, here's the waypoint. So on the lake where you're guiding, someone who maybe comes up, or they come and fish with you. I have a buddy, John Monteith, Fish Hunters Guide Service here on Lake of the Woods. And he doesn't allow GPS units into the boat. And customers were going home and then posting on social media. I was out with John on the weekend, and here's the latitude, longitude of the 5, and you go, there's only 100 fish on that reef.
Oh, geez.
And you go, here you've gone night and day, you and your son. You've put all the work into finding those locations. Your guests are paying you to take them out. You don't want that shared with the rest of the world to come to the lake and then burn your spots out. And that is the downside, I think, of social media.
Absolutely. We've seen that a lot in Alberta. Like one spot that would maybe have 4 guys now have 600. And I think the other aspect too is the way that a lot of these new guys are handling the fish too to get the best picture possible. We're seeing a lot of floating fish lately.
And I won't even go, Todd, to that. I'm sure there's other guides on the lake where you are.
Oh yeah.
Maybe there are, but here, and you'll see negative social media comments about an individual. I don't even look at them. And you do not know who they are. You do not know who they're bad mouthing. You don't know why they're doing it. They are some of the real negatives of social media. 100% right. You're right.
And what do you think we can do to rectify it? Like, is there any do's and don'ts of what we should and shouldn't post?
I never ever. People will be mad at me now.
Gord.
No, they will. I get so many emails. I'll post something on Instagram or Facebook, and somebody will say, "Where did you catch that?" And I always say, "Lower left-hand corner." not gonna. Come on.
I'll tell you what, Gord, no one's going to be mad at that. And I'll tell you why, because every page you're on or every catch you see, I get it all the time too. Where at? Yeah. And it's tough, right? And I think something you said really clicked for me there is that, you're posting something or people are going out and fishing a spot where that person has worked day and night. Mitch is a guide as well. And even with Bryce and like you said, Gord, with your experience, sometimes people don't understand the time and effort that's put into being able to find a spot. And it's so quickly demolished just from a simple post. Or, we were talking with Adam before the show, as simple as a friendship. I made the joke that maybe prenuptials now have to have fishing spots built into them in case there's an issue in the marriage. It's really getting to that point, and it's unfortunate. You just want to go out and have fun and fish, right?
Yes. Yeah. And now to the other side, though, what I say to folks, especially in the wintertime for ice fishing, one of the most common questions I get asked, and ice fishing is just taken off in droves now. And people will say, I've got a good rod, reel, electronics. I don't know where to start. And I'll often say, if there's a good guide, so Bryce or Mitch is out, and I always say the same thing, don't crowd them. Don't pull in and fish there. But if you go by and you happen to know them and say, how's it going, Bryce or Mitch, what depth are they in? And then go find your own fish. Or look and say, you know what, he's fishing off the end of an island, and I think that's about 32 feet deep there. So there's a whole lake out there, and the real thrill of fishing is finding your own spots. So if honest truth, if I go out today and I find a spot that's loaded with walleyes and I have a tremendous day today, I'm not going there tomorrow. I'm going to bore. I'm going to go back to. I can understand why these two guys do, because they've got. No, you've got guides clients to satisfy. But for me to go back to a spot where I did well today is boring. So, but I can take. Man, I was catching them in 16 feet of water off steep ledges on the west side. I'll go find 5, 6 more spots, and the time to explore. And the time to do things you've never done before is when the bite is good. That's when you start looking for new spots. So don't crowd guides, don't pull in, be respectful, and that rolls right over to the social media side. If I didn't have to promote stuff through the magazines and through television, radio, I might not be on social media.
Yeah.
And the killer for you two guys, is you have to be on.
Yeah.
So you're going to come on and say, look at what we got today. And Todd and I are going to be out and say, hey, I saw where they were fishing. And you come tomorrow with your paying guests and we're sitting there. Like, I'm not sure that's fair.
Yeah, it's always.
I think you're right. Todd has fished my spots without me.
Okay, I was gonna say this. Okay, but I feel like I'm in school again, and I have to go to the bathroom. Whenever need to go to the bathroom, I always ask permission. So, other than the one spot Bryce is talking about, I always try to ask permission.
Yeah, this is true.
I'll be honest with you. When I take no one to my favorite muskie spots, because I have just learned over the years, no matter how many times people say, after 5 years, 7 years, they're back. And so but I will say at the beginning of the day, if we're going to some really, really close to the vest spots, I will say no GPS units, and anywhere we go, I don't expect to see you there.
Yeah.
If you don't like that, by all means, go fishing on your own.
And I think it's super important, and I wish people would understand that, right? But unfortunately, nowadays people just have a tendency to get really, really upset when you don't want to tell them. I was telling everyone before the show, this sounds selfish. Prussian carp have been, being an invasive species, are taking over here. I mean, I've been burned in so many scenarios. I don't even want to share a Prussian carp spot, which I know is selfish. But I mean, I'm sure you've been there, Gord or Bryce and Mitch for sure. When you get burned, you always have that taste in the back of your throat where you're like, oh yeah, this is familiar. I don't know if I want to deal with that right now.
I have a seagull decoy. It is a pure replication of a seagull. And in the summertime, I put my seagull out. That's my marker. And 2-3 years ago, my grandson and I are out, and we have the seagull out, and this giant, huge boat pulls in. And on the reef that we're on, they keep coming closer and closer. And then I swear this is the truth. I could have taken my rod and touched their boat. And the guy says, I can't believe that seagull keeps staying there.
That's hilarious. I guess we lost Bryce. Bryce, I'm sorry. He might have lost connection. Maybe they're getting another hailstorm or windstorm or snowstorm.
That's some heavy weather down there. Like, I was fortunate enough to get out for walleye waters for a day there. And just going to that new lake that he fishes, I probably spent not much time, and I didn't cover much land, just hitting those certain areas, those drops and stuff, just slowly going over. And the amount of active fish I found in just those little spots was just amazing. I was ripping cranks or just going to a big plastic as well. And it's just awesome to find those new areas and just exploring the lake as you go around. Like, I've never fished a lake in open water at all. And first, hit that first one. You did your research on the maps before and hit that first one. It's like, boom, there's one. That's awesome. I'm going to go hit that next spot. Boom. And it's just like, it's just that great feeling of that new place and those new spots that you get.
Yeah.
Crazy how it works, eh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know we're a little bit over time. Gord, you're probably fishing tomorrow, right?
Darn right I am. Although we've got this storm system, I do two things. I watch the weather forecast before I go to bed, and I check it again first thing when I wake up. And we've got weather warnings coming in from the west coming through. So I'll have to play it safe. But right now it's on the agenda, and I've rigged all my rods up this afternoon.
So here's one last question. You mentioned weather. Do you use an app or do you just watch the Weather Network?
I'll tell you about, I do watch the Weather Network. And the reason I like watching the Weather Network is I like being able to watch the radar. So for sure, I read it, but I love seeing the radar. And you can see, I can look and see something that right now is in your neck of the woods, or something that's hitting Brandon or Dauphin right now. And, you know, it's 6 hours away. So I can, I like to be able to interpret the radar myself.
Yeah.
But I will give one quick call out to something, and anybody watching, go on your app and punch in MH, stands for Muskie Hunter, MHTV app. And it is Solunar app. It is taking the Solunar table, the moonrise, moonset. I was not a believer. And I absolutely tried to prove this wrong. And it proved, and I could not do that. Some of the absolute most incredible days have been based on that 100% free MHTV. It's location specific, and so it actually hooks into your weather, and it'll take humidity, rain, wind, and it blends it all in. And I have never seen anything that is as accurate.
I'm downloading that right after the show.
Try it. I never go for lake trout, muskies, and northern pike. I never go for those three species without looking at it. And there's never a day I go ice fishing that I don't look at it to see. And here's the key. So you guys know that, you know, the best walleye fishing's the last hour or two. First couple of hours in the morning, last couple of hours in the afternoon. But if you download that app and look at it, and it says tonight that moonrise is at 5 o'clock, you be on your best spot tonight at 5 o'clock, and those walleyes will be going crazy.
Mitch, fuel up the boat. I'm coming your way this weekend.
Yeah, I know that. It's ready. It's rocked.
That's why I have lots of friends with boats, Gord.
Well, those are the best friends to have.
It's very, very true. Very true. Especially with people like me. I need lots of friends with boats.
And you need a big boat.
A big boat. Hey, you made the size joke, not me. Well, Gord, the last thing, I know we're a couple minutes over. So we had a 500 like page contest. We had a whole bunch of sponsors. You're going to be involved in one of these because, first of all, we had Hidden Waters Ltd. donated some hats. Those went to Sash and Corbin, which was awesome. We also had some prize packages from Dynamite Plastics. One of them we randomly picked, which was page like number 150. That winner actually redonated that tackle package back to our charity Youth Can Fish 2. So we'll look after getting that to them. Awesome charity there. And Gord, I had you pick a number from 1 to 506, I think it was. And you said, I have a favorite number and this is what it is. Do you remember what it was?
I sure do, because they're my 3 favorite numbers. Bobby Orr was one of my favorite hockey players. What was his number 4? When Bobby Hull entered the league, he was not 9 or 99. He was number 7. And Gordie Howe was my all-time favorite. So 479.
It's so funny. I was going to ask you, how is 479 your number? And I love it. I still have my autographed Bobby Orr over here in the closet hiding. Now I have to bring it out and look at it. Thanks, Gord. I've had it for like 20 years.
Awesome.
Well, Gord's lucky number was 479, and that prize winner was Sam Shank. Sam, we've already reached out to you, and what's funny is he's actually won twice in the last couple of months. So that's pretty cool. So, Sam, we've already connected you. And then we had a grand prize winner who was Clay, and Clay gets a Fish Whip custom jersey and hat. So we've already looked after that. So thanks to Barb over at Fish Whip. She was on that right away. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Gord, I can't thank you enough. You were my bucket list interview. And it's just been so awesome to be able to read all the articles and everything that you do for fishing as a whole. I think I'm going to take your tip. Maybe Mitch and I'll have to get together and meet with some people on changing our fishery. I can't thank you enough for joining the show and everything that you've done for the fishing community.
Oh, thank you, Todd. And I love doing this. So if you want to talk walleye specifically sometime, or lake trout or pike or techniques or lead core, whatever, I'm a call away. So we'll do it again.
If your neighbor ever needs someone to mow his lawn, have him give me a call. I will come mow his lawn.
Todd's getting too excited now.
I know. Hey, now I need to find out where Gord lives and move in beside him. I'll be that neighbor.
Oh my gosh. You'll be like on Home Improvement looking over the fence all the time.
Heidi ho, neighbor. Thanks again, everyone, for joining this week. Gord, thanks for coming on the show. It was an awesome, awesome pleasure. Mitch, as always, thank you, sir. And we'll see everyone next week. Our co-host guest, Mr. Gibson Tilley. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next week at On the Other Line Canada.